I will just let you know a little bit about our next speaker. Louis Rifkind is joining us remotely from Whitehorse. He's got a breadth of experience in engineering and industrial development and has worked with projects ranging from climate adaptation to urban sprawl and waste management. For the past 13 years, Louis has been the mining analyst for the Yukon Conservation Society, which means that he pays very close attention to the mining projects and prospects in the Yukon. Louis will be helping us understand the status of those projects and their shipping options.
Right, thank you very much for inviting me to address this presentation. I do speak with a bit of an accent. I do speak quite fast. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them afterwards. I'm with the Yukon Conservation Society. Some of you might be familiar with us. We have been around for over 50 years in the Yukon. We do a lot of environmental stuff, and occasionally we take an interest in environmental issues on the neighboring jurisdictions, Alaska, the Northwest Territories, and British Columbia. And this particular project has certainly caught our eye. We have sort of a mandate to pursue ecosystem well-being throughout the Yukon and beyond. One thing I'd like to sort of state up front is we're not necessarily opposed to mining. We just want it done right, done in appropriate areas with community support, and in such a manner that it doesn't leave an ongoing environmental degradation mess. A little bit about me. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. I've been doing this particular job for over a decade. Prior to that, I did energy stuff, dealing with oil and gas exploration and proposed pipelines within the Yukon for another 10 years before that. I've done some waste management stuff in the Yukon and with some climate change research chucked in as well. I also, as you can see in the bottom here, I frequent trendier downtown coffee shops when we're allowed to, COVID permitting. A quick word about the Yukon mines. I'll just use my mouse here. I do apologize. It says red is the active Yukon mines, but for some reason it showed up orange on the slide, so there is that. There is a lot of hype around the Yukon mining industry and around all mining industry, whether it's Alaska, British Columbia, or whatever. At the moment, if we don't count the placer mining operations, there are only 3 active mines in the Yukon. The Minto mine, which is currently shipping ore to Skagway, the Keno mine, or the Keno complex as we call it, it too is shipping small amounts of ore to Skagway. And then the Eagle gold mine, which is a new one, and it is producing gold. Gold ore tends not to be shipped anywhere. The miners get the gold, they extract it on site, and it's flown out. So if a gold mine is proposed, typically it doesn't need an ore terminal. The Keno mine is producing galena, basically a lead silver concentrate. That's getting trapped out. And the Minto mine is a copper mine, and that's getting tracked out to Skagway as well. Those are the only operating hard rock mines in the Yukon, and of the 3, only 2 need an ore terminal. If we look at this map, you can see that they're all located in the central Yukon, and they all flow down to Whitehorse using what we call the North Klondike Highway. They then go on to what's called the South Klondike Highway to Skagway. This will become important later when we start talking about the most efficient means of trucking ore to Tidewater to get it to basically the Far East, where a lot of it's processed and refined. There has been a lot of buzz about future mines that are opening up, but once again, take them all with a grain of salt. There's a company called Newmont, they're a big multinational. They're talking about developing what's called the coffee mine. That's going to be a gold mine. It doesn't need an ore terminal. The gold will be flown out. There's another mine called the Brewery Creek mine, that it too is going to be a gold mine. It does not need an ore terminal. The gold will be flown out. There's the proposed Kutzakaya mine, predominantly lead zinc will be produced. There will be some other stuff as well that will require a ore terminal at Tidewater, but we'll talk about that later. It's not going to use Skagway. It's not going to use Haines. So in the short term, we have 2 mines that require an ore terminal. In the long term, or the midterm, I suppose, we have 3 more mines that could possibly be coming on stream. There's no guarantee. They will not require Skagway nor Haines as an ore terminal. One of the reasons for this is because of the distances. Well, when we start looking at distances for trucking, when you're trucking ore, money comes into play. So obviously, mines are in it to make money. The longer you're hauling stuff, the more you have to pay for gas, the more you have to pay your truck drivers. And we start to see quite a difference in distances. Those mines in the central Yukon, they all come down to Whitehorse. From Whitehorse to Skagway, it's 2 hours, assuming you do the speed limit. From Whitehorse to Haines, it's double that, 4 hours, 4.5 hours. Much better, easier, more convenient to truck ore to Skagway at the moment. Now, of course, if commodity prices are high enough, the extra trucking distance doesn't necessarily make that much of a difference. But to be honest, a lot of mines are pretty marginal these days, so they're looking to save money where they can. So trucking distances do become important. There is also the factor of road maintenance and road safety. The North Klondike Highway and the road from Whitehorse to Skagway, the South Klondike Highway, have been designed or been over-designed to take ore trucks, basically thanks to Faro. When Faro was up and running, the trucks were huge and big, so they can take it with ease. It's a little unclear, and I've been having trouble finding any facts or figures, whether the road from Whitehorse to Haines Junction and from Haines Junction down to Haines would easily accommodate ore trucks just because of the wear and tear they would provide on the road surface. Who pays for the maintenance and repairs? And I'll talk about that in a second. But you should be aware that the Yukon is not a rich jurisdiction when it comes to upgrading these roads. And we often look to outside entities to pay for this sort of stuff, whether it's the federal government, the state of Alaska, or the US federal government is going to pay for these improvements is a question that is yet to be answered. When we look at that project I was talking about, the lead silver project, the Kutzakaya that's proposed, they've already made their decision. They are not going to truck to Skagway nor Haines. They're going to Stewart, BC, from Watson Lake. So the Kutzakaya is in the center of Yukon there. It goes south to Watson, and then from Watson they go down the Cassiar Highway to Stewart, BC. That's about 8 hours. If you're going to truck from Watson to Haines, that's 9 hours and 27 minutes. I mean, this is according to Google Earth and all that sort of stuff. But basically, you're adding an hour and a half to get to a facility that doesn't exist. The Kutzakaya company, the company that's running it, BMC Minerals, they've made their decision. They're trucking to Stewart. The ore terminal there already exists. They can take it. With no disrespect intended to the proponents of the Haines ore terminal, Haines is probably the last place you would consider to put an ore terminal if you were interested in trucking ore out of BC, northern BC, or the Yukon. You're the last choice. Skagway is ideal, and then we start looking down the Panhandle to ports that have road access to the interior, and Stewart fits the bill. So if there was no other ore terminal available, Haines makes sense. But there are other ore terminals available, and they're cheaper and closer. One thing that no one's really talking about is if Haines does become an ore terminal, who pays for the road upgrades? up until quite recently, the road from Haines to Beaver Creek was paid for by the US government through something called the SHACWAC funding formula. SHACWAC's the name of the highway, as I'm sure you're familiar. But it expired back in 2020 or 2019, and it's unclear if it's been renewed on a long-term basis. The road up near Beaver Creek, at least, is in a pretty awful shape, thanks to permafrost heave and issues like that. The road from Haines Junction in the Yukon to Haines, Alaska is not too bad at the moment, but if you were to start running all trucks along it, it would get hammered to pieces pretty quick. And then who pays to do all the repairs and maintenance? The Yukon probably doesn't have the means or wherewithal to pay for that. British Columbia, why would they care? They're not getting any benefit out of it. It's Yukon all going to an Alaskan ore port. So it would probably be either the state of Alaska or the US federal government that would have to pick up the cost. So that's sort of a very brief overview of why the Haines ore port, from a Yukon perspective, looks kind of pie in the sky. You've got a lot of issues, as the previous speakers have said, that have to be addressed. And one wonders, you know, with all the money that there's talking of spending about doing a Haines port, I mean, to be honest, if you're going to export ore from the Panhandle, may as well pump it into Skagway or Stewart in BC to upgrade, repair, and do environmental remediation. It just makes greater sense. If anyone's got any questions, please feel free to contact me. Here's my contact info. I've given a copy of this presentation to the Lynn Canal Conservation Group. They'll be more than happy to send it around if you send them an email or if you talk to them afterwards. Anyway, thank you for your time.